Hundreds of people today phoned the ZBC saying they sighted an unidentified flying object.
All over Zimbabwe were phoning the BBC to say, we've seen something weird.
No wings, no nothing. Shiny over.
We saw this black figure running.
His face was like this, and his eyes were down here.
In September of 1994, a strange story emerged from a tiny community known as Ruwa in Zimbabwe, where 62 children from the prestigious Ariel School claimed to have seen silver flying discs land in a nearby field. And according to them, bizarre creatures emerged from these discs and began communicating with them. And this became known as the Ariel phenomenon.
It was a silver oval thing that flew past really slowly.
I saw the bigger one and a spaceship, like 4 or 5 of them.
There had been a lot of alleged UFO sightings in the previous days, but nothing would compare to what these kids claimed to have seen at the Ariel School. So let's take a look at the events which unfolded. At around 10 a.m., the children went outside for a mid-morning break, and as they were playing near the school building, something in the distance caught their attention. And they would later tell the adults that they saw silvery round discs.
And we saw like this silver thing, and we decided that we should go down there and see, but Claire said we're not allowed there.
I saw a silver thing. It was like lying down like this on the side.
Most of the adults were inside for a faculty meeting and only learned what the children had allegedly seen once the meeting had ended. And as can be expected, the teachers were skeptical and they just continued with the school day as per normal.
We were in a staff meeting and we just heard them screaming, ah, and then they were here, and a child can't make that up.
I believed that they'd seen something, but I wasn't prepared to accept that it was anything supernatural or anything like that.
Some children believed that they'd seen aliens, while others believed that they were evil goblins from the Shona and Indebele folklore. And their parents, who paid the Ariel School's expensive tuition fees, were determined to find out exactly what happened. And soon the Ariel School phenomenon attracted the attention of UFO expert Cynthia Hind. Now, Cynthia Hind had apparently been keeping a close eye to the alleged extraterrestrial sightings in southern Africa, because in September of 1994, many people had claimed seeing strange lights in the sky, and there were also multiple people that claimed to have crossed paths with extraterrestrials.
He said to me, did I know that they had, some of his workers had seen a UFO? Well, I didn't know, but I went out immediately.
Hind eventually went to the Ariel School, where she interviewed the children in groups of 2 to 6, where they basically told her about the encounter and also sketched out drawings of the aliens and the UFOs which they saw.
You saw in your drawing, you've got not only the main object there, but you've got several others. Now, did you see these coming down, or did you see them in the sky?
I saw them disappear. They went 1 meter up from the ground and then they just disappeared.
Hind believed that the children's claims were credible since they lived in a rural environment and wouldn't have seen many depictions of UFOs or aliens on TV, which I have to disagree with, and I'll tell you why a little bit later on.
Not that we don't have radio and television, we do, but we don't get UFO coverage.
She eventually called upon a Harvard professor, a man by the name of John Mack, to help with the investigation. And pretty soon, Mack would discover that the aliens did a lot more than allegedly land on the school grounds.
They had short legs and quite a long top, with a big head and eyes that are bigger than ours.
Mack, who was a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, had previously been awarded a Pulitzer Prize for his 1977 study, Lawrence of Arabia, A Prince of Our Disorder, The Life of T.E. Lawrence. And in the early 1990s, Mack began to take an interest in alien abductions and published a best-selling book titled Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens.
Nothing in my 40 years of working with people prepared me for this phenomenon. Whereas what people were telling me with doubt, incredulity themselves. No one has, in spite of what critics say, anything to gain, as far as I can tell, from this. Nobody wants to be a member of this club.
However, his newfound interest did cause some problems, as Harvard investigated him for giving credence to a patient who believed they had an extraterrestrial encounter.
John is a man of great gift and great intelligence, but he's also a man who tends to take on enthusiasms, and this time he's gone too far.
At the Ariel School, Mack's beliefs seemed to help him bond with the children as they opened up more to him about their alleged alien encounter. As they told him that the aliens actually communicated with them, not by using words, but through some form of telepathy, and that they urged them to protect the Earth's environment.
I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world and we mustn't get too technologized.
In the decades since, many of the children from the Ariel School have stuck to their story, and they insist that they indeed did cross paths with aliens back in September of 1994.
My name is Dylan Vico. I was born in Zimbabwe in 1984. I was witness to an event that was I cannot fully explain. It was at Ariel Primary School in 1994.
However, in the Netflix documentary called Encounters, this same guy changed his story and said that he instigated the whole thing and that everyone just kind of went along with it.
No, I didn't see a UFO. I made up the whole thing. So myself and a friend, we were discussing how we could get off Shona lessons. And we came up with a crazy idea, which never ever should have worked. At the time, I can't see it now, but at the time there was a rock. A very, very shiny rock, and it was shining in the sun. And, so I pointed at myself, yeah, there's a spaceship, there's an alien. And grade 1, grade 2's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, aliens. And within half an hour, all the kids were talking about it, all the kids were running around, and the whole school was buzzing.
There were also others that believe that there is a much simpler explanation. For starters, Cynthia Hind recorded a number of UFO sightings in the days immediately before the incident at the Ariel School. However, many believe that those sightings was actually the re-entry of the Xena 2 rocket from the Cosmos 2290 satellite launch. Furthermore, Hind's claims that the children would not have known about aliens is also most likely false, because Ruwa is a small community, but it is situated close to the thriving metropolis of Harare, or at least, Harare was a thriving metropolis back then. Plus, the children also came from affluent families, and they definitely would have had access to popular media. And from a personal standpoint, growing up in South Africa, a popular television show, The X-Files, debuted the previous year in 1993. And there was a lot of talk about, kind of like the Blair Witch Project, about, whether this is real or not. And I think the first episode, it stated that, it's based on actual FBI case files. And, back then, especially if you were a kid, if you saw a Boeing 747 just look dodgy, then everyone thought it was a UFO.
What are they? I don't know.
And growing up back then, you kind of had to, especially as a kid, you had to kind of create your own excitement. And, because there wasn't internet or smartphones or anything like that. Now, I'm not saying that this was the case with the kids at the Ariel School, but it definitely was kind of the vibe back then. The other thing is the fact that Hind interviewed them in groups of 2 to 6. Kids can pick up cues from each other and, in order to create a similar story.
And you also saw this
Yes, we were all there.
creature.
Yes.
What did you think it was?
I don't know, really.
It's also possible that the children picked up cues from John Mack, who was a known environmental activist, because it wasn't only until, after their interviews with him where the whole alien message about anti-pollution came up. And it wasn't, this particular message from the aliens wasn't conveyed in the previous interviews done with Cynthia Hind.
We don't look after the planet, and all the trees will just go down and there will be no air and people will be dying.
There are also many people that believe that John Mack just kept on pursuing the subject because he received a lot of attention from it. As mentioned, he bore out a best-selling book, and he appeared on numerous talk shows, including Oprah Winfrey.
We're talking today with Harvard University psychiatrist John Mack, who studied the cases of about 100 people, at least, who claim that they've been abducted by aliens.
Another red flag to me personally was, after watching the whole Netflix Encounters documentary, the one school teacher stated that, you know, she was actually visited by the aliens 3 times. She'd never spoken about it, and afterwards she went into, you know, depression. She was on Prozac, and she even stated that she was abducted in one of the visits and taken up to their spaceship, where she was probed, you know, with a needle in her belly button, which is the exact same story that Betty Hill, you know, spoke about during her alleged alien abduction. She also stated that, you know, if things got too bad, you know, referring to her depression, the aliens said, you know, during their last visit that she could always go with them. But she, according to her, declined, saying that she had to continue her mission teaching the children. So I don't know, for some reason my bullshit meter just went off. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen, because, you know, to me, being an open-minded skeptic, if I wasn't there to see things for myself, especially with regards to the paranormal, then I'm always going to be a little bit, you know, skeptical. Because the one thing that is certain is that, you know, humans are known to bullshit.
Then they came back the 3rd and final time and said, right, we're leaving, this is your last chance, do you want to go with us? And I said, no, I've got to do what I've been trained to do, and that you don't leave a project, you see it through.
Another thing that's interesting to me is that some of these kids now grown up in the documentary stated that the event itself wasn't as traumatic as the aftermath, because, you know, they would claim to be labeled as the UFO kids. They were apparently mocked, you know, etc., etc. So you think that the logical thing to do would be for them to shy away from any form of media attention, you know, interviews, documentaries, that type of thing. But, you know, fuck me, if there's a Netflix documentary to be made, you know, then they all come out the woodwork and basically relive the trauma again. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the whole world has kind of forgotten about this whole incident, let alone who these kids actually were.
What do you want to say? The only thing I want to know, when are we going to be on TV? Alright, you are on TV.
So, if this thing was that traumatic, why would you want to relive it again, remind the whole world of exactly who you are in a global documentary which was done, you know, with Netflix?
For about 20 years, I tried to keep that hidden, I tried to keep that down. And as a result, I lost a lot of my childhood. And I lost a lot of my memories of my childhood because I couldn't open that wound. I couldn't open that trauma.
In conclusion, the Ariel phenomenon is a very interesting case, and you know, from a personal standpoint, you know, I take this stance on pretty much anything claimed in the paranormal world, in that if I wasn't there for myself, then I'm always going to have questions. And it would also be pretty interesting if, you know, if you were to meet these witnesses, because you can kind of gauge more often than not where they're coming from, what type of characters they are, you know, from a credibility standpoint. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.